Starting the new year here in Storm Watch. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Krissy Vann. Now coming up, we're going to talk about the snow squalls moving through parts of Ontario, but the big story is the west, where we have a mess of a system that will be impacting the entire country. Let's take a look first, though, at Canmore, where extreme cold is on the way. But here's a look at what we're seeing on the radar right now. We're going to have a really messy time through the BC interior, and already you can see through Prince George, those pockets of pink picking up on the radar. That is your mixing and your freezing rain. So in Prince George in particular, going to be a dangerous situation because we'll have a layer of freezing rain topped off by snow, which makes for treacherous travel conditions. Now, what you're seeing in Alberta right now, north and east of Calgary, that's a little preview of what's to come. So yes, the snow is falling, but the big system is going to make its way across. So the BC interior heavily impacted today. And then through Alberta, your story is going to continue, particularly heaviest amounts west of Edmonton through the day tomorrow. And as you can see there, all of that white that extends through a wide swath of area, 30 plus centimeters of snow. Now, the south coast of BC, you're actually having a great day today. So all the action through BC happening in the interior. And what we're seeing as well is an elevated danger of avalanche, particularly through the northwest coast. A fragile snowpack with all this precipitation added to it, making for that dangerous situation. So by Friday afternoon, what you're going to see is this clipper system move into the prairies as well. So southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba impacted this weekend. But what you'll notice is those snowfall amounts start to taper off. So the system starts to lose a little bit of its steam, but it is going to be impacting Ontario later this week. We'll talk about that story further. I just want to show you the look ahead for the west, where once the system moves out, we have that Arctic high pressure settling back in. It's going to plummet temperatures through Alberta, through the prairies, and what you'll see is along the coast of BC, you're actually going to be getting into some rain. Now we head to North Bay with snow squalls, and as we know, if you're traveling out on the roads, it can literally change things in a second. All it takes is a quick change of the wind direction, and that could be the difference of heavy snowfall one place and 10 kilometers elsewhere, not seeing it. This is the current radar, and you can see along the shores of Georgian Bay, we are getting into some of that heavier snow squall activity. Along the 401 through Kingston, that's going to be some treacherous travel if you are heading out this New Year's Day. And you can see we already do have those snow squall warnings in place. So some areas expecting that 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. Parry Sound, you are included in that. I know many cottage goers right now. Oh, hopefully you're enjoying the snow, but it could make the travel back home, the return to work, perhaps a little bit difficult. Through Friday, you can see areas like Parry Sound expecting that 20 centimeter mark, and eastern shores of Superior also getting into that heavy snow. Now, I talked about the plummeting temperatures on the way for the west, and coming up right now, we're going to count down the top 5 cold weather phenomena. A very happy new year to you. Krissy Vann joining you. And yes, we're starting the new year off in Storm Watch as Mother Nature has decided to kick things off with a lot of active weather. We are seeing snow squalls move through Ontario. We'll talk about those coming up. But our big story is going to be to the west, where we have heavy snow on the way. We'll start off, though, in Calgary, Alberta, and west of Edmonton, a very different story. Let's talk about what we're seeing right now, though. And you can see on the radar through Prince George some heavier snow. And you see those pinks there? That's where we're getting into a little bit of that mixing and freezing rain. That is a dangerous combination when you get the freezing rain along the roads, and then you add to that getting into the snowfall on top. It can make things very slick. Treacherous travel through the mountain passes today. Right now, though, in Alberta, we are seeing snow north and east of Calgary. That is not the main system to come. This is, however, so through the BC interior, you can see 30 plus centimeters west of Edmonton, the heaviest snow for Alberta. That will be falling through tomorrow. And then as we get south of that, that's where things start to taper off a little bit. I do want to mention for the BC interior, we have an elevated danger of avalanches. And as you can see on our avalanche map here, the high risk area is in the northwest coastal portion of the province, and the big concern is that that snowpack is quite fragile. We've had the warmer days, the colder days, and adding this heavy snowfall on top of it. So do be careful if you do participate in any of those recreational backcountry activities. Now, through Friday evening, You can see the whites here, that's your 30+ centimeter mark. So as mentioned, west of Edmonton, in through Calgary, you're really in that less than 5 centimeter. And this Alberta clipper, as it makes its way through, it's actually going to lose a bit of steam. So heading into the weekend in southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba, you will be picking up some snowfall. But overall, that system's going to start settling down as it heads across. Now, what will replace it? Well, a look ahead for the west, that Arctic high pressure on the way. If you are traveling through south coast parts of BC, you are getting into the wet weather into the weekend, but overall the cold is going to be the big story for the prairies. We head now to St. Agatha area where it was covered, and then in Kitchener-Waterloo things had cleaned up, but we're in a snow squall situation with lake effect snow, and some of those bands can be very heavy. And as we know with lake effect, just a simple shift in the wind can be the difference of 10 kilometers one place getting heavy snow, and then a nice day 10 kilometers away. Now, along the shores of Georgian Bay, that's where we are seeing some heavier bands move through right now. And in addition, some heavy snowfall along the 401 heading through Kingston, Brockville. Do be very cautious if you do have travel plans today. Luckily, the roads are lightly traveled as it is New Year's Day, but visibility can be greatly reduced, and it can happen quite quickly as well. We do have snow squall warnings in place. Prairies Sound, you're included in that. I know many of you have traveled up to the cottage for New Year's. And then the eastern shores of Superior, we also have some snow squall warnings, and then areas like Barrie included in snow squall watches, which means there's enough ingredients there to have the setup of those snow squalls developing. Through Friday, you can see those darker blue areas in that 10 to 20 centimeter mark, and areas on those eastern Superior shores could see 20+ centimeters. Now, coming up, we'll have more active weather coverage as we are in Storm Watch here at the Weather Network. Thanks so much for joining us. Yes, we are in Storm Watch. I'm Krissy Vann, wishing you a happy new year, but unfortunately, Mother Nature really complicating things for some. We're going to talk about the snow squalls in Ontario coming up. I know a dangerous setup through the Kingston area. Parts of the 401 have been shut down. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, really, we're in Storm Watch for the west because we have very active conditions on the way. Let's take a look, though, first at Weather Network. Our main thing into the new year is keeping you safe. So we do want to let you know it's going to be very messy in the north and central coast of BC, and particularly through the BC interior. A messy day. So through Prince George, you can see snow falling there, and see those little shades of pink picking up? That is freezing rain. A layer of freezing rain topped off by a layer of snow. That can be a disaster for you if you're going for an outdoor walk or on the roads as well. Through the BC interior, expect a mess on those mountain passes. And then the snow that you're seeing here in Alberta, so that's north and east of Calgary, that's a little bit of a preview of what's to come, because as we head through this evening into tomorrow, you're going to be dealing with an Alberta clipper. So here's some of the preliminary amounts. We're looking at 30+, all those areas shaded in white. So you'll notice for Alberta, west of Edmonton is where we are seeing that heaviest precipitation. What I do want to mention as well, for those of you that do the recreational activities, cross-country skiing, getting out into the mountains, be cautious because we have an elevated avalanche danger. And what you'll see on the map here, northwest coastal portions, that's where we have the highest risks at the moment. But really any of those areas, we've had a lot of fluctuations in temperatures, adding on this precipitation, resulting in a fragile snowpack. So just be very aware of your surroundings. As we head through Friday, we're going to see this clipper system sweep through Alberta, again bringing some of that heavy snowfall. And then we're also going to see that precip through southern Saskatchewan and then southern Manitoba. What you'll notice as it gets to you in Manitoba, that snowfall amounts decrease, that 5 to 10 centimeter mark. As we head in through next week, that's where we see the return of Arctic high pressure, and that is going to drastically reduce your temperatures. They will be plummeting. In through BC, a different story. We have a westerly flow setting up this weekend, which will bring some rain to the coast. And that is exactly what we're here to talk about. We have a dangerous band that is set up right on the 401, and as we know, that is one of the most major thoroughfares here in Ontario. So through Kingston, heading into Brockville, I know some stretches of the eastbound lanes have been shut down due to multiple collisions. Adding to that, the slick roads anyways, if you are traveling in that stretch, visibility is going to be greatly reduced. You could see on the radar there, very thick, heavy snow squall bands. And why we're seeing them is really all it takes is a quick shift in the wind direction. And that's why some of you could be 25 kilometers away and in the clear, and then 25 kilometers over here dealing with those really adverse conditions. We do have snow squall warnings in place. Prairies Sound, you're included, North Bay. You can see as well along the eastern shores of Superior. And And then we have watches as well as we head further south, like Barrie in through Bracebridge as well. Now through Friday, you can see some heavy snowfall expected, that 10 to 20 centimeters in the darker blue, and then anywhere in white is showing 20 centimeters plus. So do be careful if you are traveling out. Coming up, we will talk about what is ahead for you in Ontario and Atlantic Canada. Continuing storm watch coverage here. We are in storm watch here at the Weather Network. A happy new year to you. Mother Nature has decided to really crank things up to start this year. We're going to be talking about the snow squalls moving through Ontario. We have closures along one of the major highways, the 401, reports of a multi-vehicle pileup in Odessa of 75 to 100 vehicles. So a dangerous situation setting up there. But first, we'll talk about the west. Let's head to Surrey, British Columbia. Now, things, though, today setting up to be quite messy for British Columbia. So north and central coast and the BC interior, you're going to have heavy snowfall and some areas seeing the freezing rain, like Prince George. You can see just a little south of Prince George on the radar, that pink that just popped up, that is freezing rain. Freezing rain then piled on with heavy snowfall. That's a mess because you have those extremely slick surfaces hidden underneath the snowpack. What we're seeing in Alberta right now, north and east of Calgary, yes, that is snow, but it's the preview of what's to come. We have the Alberta Clippers set up. So for you in Alberta, things ramp up this evening in through tomorrow afternoon. For BC, this is where you're going to be seeing all your precip is today. Overall amounts in the white, you can see 30 plus centimeters for some areas. In Alberta, west of Edmonton is where we are seeing the heaviest snowfall. But the BC interior certainly getting into a messy situation. And because of that, we're seeing an elevated avalanche danger. You can see here in the northwest coast, that is highlighted in red to show that there is a high danger value there. And if you are into those recreational activities, getting out in the backcountry, enjoy all the beauty, but just do so safely. Be very aware of your surroundings. Now through Friday night, so as I mentioned, going to be the messy day in Alberta through tomorrow. As we head into the evening, we're going to see this clipper push into southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. But what you'll notice, I mean, yes, we have this little hint of white just west of Regina. That's a 30 plus centimeter mark, or 15 to 30 centimeters rather. But then it kind of weakens down as it gets into southern Manitoba, 5 to 10 centimeters. This same clipper is actually going to be merging with the Texas low and impacting Ontario into the weekend. What is the west going to see, though, as we head through this afternoon? Well, through the prairies, very cold. With your wind chill, Saskatoon feeling like minus 14. But as you head through the weekend, temperatures will be plummeting. Grassy surfaces. What we're really watching for you in Ontario today is the lake effect snow. And unfortunately, that's created a very dangerous situation through Kingston. Look at these dark snow bands on the radar. This is a live look at the radar right now. And you can see with a situation and a setup like this through Kingston and Brockville, visibility on the roads going to be greatly reduced. We wanted to share with you some of the traffic cameras out there. We didn't have those available, but I can imagine if we brought them up, you really wouldn't see much of anything with that heavy snowfall. My advice, if you are in those eastern parts of the province, stay off the roads, because what we see with these snow squalls as they set up, it takes just a slight shift in the wind, and that can create a dangerous situation in one point where 10 kilometers away, it's fine. So it can happen very, very quickly. Now, we do have snow squall warnings in place through Parry Sound, up and through the Nickel Belt, and that's all because we have that lake effect machine ramping up, and you will find some heavier snowfall amounts through Friday. So this is all ahead of a system that we're going to be seeing into the weekend. You can see this is all the lake effect in the darker blue areas like Parry Sound, for example, that 10 to 20 centimeter mark. And then the eastern shores of Superior, that's where we could see some higher amounts in that 20 plus centimeter range. Now, traveling into the weekend, this here is the Alberta Clipper that we're dealing with. That's going to merge with this Texas low and cause periods of snow, freezing rain, and rain for Ontario as we head into your Saturday and over to Sunday. Now, coming up, we're going to have continuing storm watch coverage. We'll be monitoring the situation across the country. Storm watch coverage continues here at the Weather Network. I'm Krissy Vann, wishing you a happy new year, but unfortunately, with some of the weather stories we're following, not so great for some already. Now, coming up, we're going to talk about the dangerous snow squall situation through Ontario, but really the storm watch focus is on the west as we have a low that's tracking in, an Alberta clipper moving through that's going to be bringing some heavy snowfall amounts. Let's travel to Canmore. That's what you're getting if you are in BC. Today is the day through the BC interior and the north and central coast where we are seeing some heavy snow, periods of freezing rain as well in areas like Prince George. You can see in the white here, that's 15 to 30 plus centimeters. So along those mountain passes in the BC interior, travel can be quite dangerous. And then in Alberta, we're looking west of Edmonton. That's where the heaviest snow will fall. Things will ramp up for you in Alberta this evening and continue through the day tomorrow. Do want to mention that we are looking at an elevated danger for avalanche. You can see in the northwest coastal portions of the province that has been moved up to a high avalanche danger. So just be cautious if you do partake in any of those backcountry activities. Let's look at the snowfall amounts that we're expecting as this clipper progresses into the prairies. So as mentioned, the big day for Alberta this evening into tomorrow. As we head through Friday evening, the clipper system moves into southern Saskatchewan, and some areas picking up a hefty amount. If you're just outside of Regina, could see that 15 to 30 centimeter, and then in through southern Manitoba, it starts to taper off. You get into that 5 to 10 centimeter mark. This same clipper is actually going to be merging with a low over Ontario. We'll have details coming on that, but first I want to show you the long range. Once the system pushes out, Arctic high pressure returns, which is going to plummet temperatures throughout the Prairie province. Mornings through many parts of Ontario. You can see along the eastern shores of Georgian Bay, up through the Nickel Belt, then the eastern shores of Lake Superior included in this as well. I know these squalls have already set up a very dangerous situation in areas like Kingston, where you can see 20 plus centimeters just south of Kingston is expected. And already we've had some incidents along the 401, so one of the major thoroughfares in the province with multi-vehicle pileups. So it's one of those things, if you see the squalls, it can impact that visibility on the roads quite quickly. Eastern shores of Georgian Bay, Prairie Sound, as well, seeing that 10 to 20 centimeter mark. Eastern shores of Lake Superior could even see those higher amounts of 20 plus centimeters of snow. And then the look ahead, unfortunately, yes, we get that lake effect snow machine that's ramped up this week, but we're going to see that Alberta clipper make its way, merging with this Texas low. And that is going to bring in on the weekend, Saturday evening. We're going to have a mix of seeing everything start off as snow in Ontario, changing over to some mixing ice pellets possible, freezing rain, and then transitioning to rain. That same system will push up then into Atlantic Canada for Sunday. And Environment Canada has already issued some preliminary warnings to give you that heads up. The storm is on the way, and yes, it's going to be messy, so travel will be impacted. But right now, all eyes on this clipper as it makes its way across the country. And that's why we're in Storm Watch here at the Weather Network, and we'll have continuing coverage coming up. We have a lot to cover this New Year's Day. I'm Krissy Vann, and we have some dangerous weather conditions across many parts of the country. We're going to talk about the province of Ontario, the snow squalls coming up in a moment. But of course, we are in storm watch for all this active weather to the west. Of course, we have that Alberta clipper forming. We're going to be seeing heavy snowfall through BC in through Alberta. Let's look though at Canmore, where of course getting out there and celebrating tends to warm you up. Things quite different though today. We are looking at some very active conditions in the north and central coast of BC and right through the BC interior. A look at the current radar. You can see around Prince George, those pockets of pink. Well, that is your freezing rain. And I do want to let you know that we are showing the clouds covers here as well with the satellite, just to illustrate that yes, there is precipitation through this whole swath of BC. In through Alberta, a different story. North and east of Calgary, yes, we are seeing some snowfall right now. But things are really going to ramp up for you by this evening into tomorrow. So here's what I mean. By Friday afternoon, anything that you see in white, that's 15 to 30 plus centimeters. So yes, travel is going to be very messy as you're heading through the BC interior. And then heaviest snowfall for Alberta will be west of Edmonton, where we are looking at the possibility of seeing those 30 plus centimeters. Now, today as well, special weather statements have been put in place. We have on Highway 16 the risk of freezing rain, and then Highway 97 the risk of that heavy snow. So if you are maneuvering through those mountain passes, well, travel, it's going to be tricky. I would avoid it unless it's absolutely necessary. As well, we love getting outdoors through the mountains, but I do want to let you know that we do have an elevated danger of avalanches. So particularly in that northwest coast, it has been brought up to a high danger. So just be very aware of your surroundings. Let's look at what we're facing through Friday. So you can see this Alberta clipper. It's actually going to be impacting pretty much the whole country. Here's how it sets up. So through Alberta tomorrow, that's when you're looking at your heaviest snowfall. Then as we head through the evening hours on your Friday, southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba, that's when you'll start to pick up the snowfall. You can see by the time it gets to southern Manitoba, things sort of ramp down a little bit. You're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters. Now that same clipper is going to be impacting Ontario on Saturday. I'll get to those details in a moment, but I do want to show you the look ahead here. High pressure moving in for the weekend, and that's going to bring back the frigid temperatures. Squalls. Let's show you what I mean. Here's the current radar right now, Kingston through Brockville, heading into Cornwall, and you'll see those dark blues, that heavy snowfall occurring right along the 401. That is why we have had a closure of the 401 eastbound from Wilton Road to Highway 15 several hours. So we're going to keep monitoring that situation, but very dangerous on the roads through Kingston, Brockville, heading through Cornwall. Avoid the 401, obviously, with that closure. And in addition, obviously, because it's closed and it caused that, the situation is dangerous. Visibility greatly reduced and things very slippery. We do have snow squall watches and warnings through the day today. You can see Prairie Sound included, the Nickel Belt, and then the eastern shores of Superior in that warned area. So you could be looking at some significant snowfall at times. And as we know with lake effect snow, it can be a simple shift in the wind direction, and that could be the difference of seeing heavy snow in one spot and 25 kilometers over here looking nice and clear. So just be cautious. This is your warning. Through Friday, you can see the darker blues areas like Prairie Sound getting into that 10 to 20 centimeter mark, and then eastern shores of Superior is where we could even get 20 plus centimeters. A quick peek of what's to come. This is the Alberta clipper that we talked about, merges with the Texas low into Saturday. Saturday overnight into Sunday, we'll see snow, freezing rain, and rain for Ontario, and then it will impact Atlantic Canada on Sunday. More storm watch coverage coming up. Keep it here because it's a busy day. Thanks for joining me on this New Year's Day as we have a lot to talk about. Many areas across the country seeing an active start to the new year. I'm Krissy Vann. Coming up, we're going to talk about the snow squall activity moving through Ontario, making for very dangerous conditions on major highways. But the big story for Stormwatch is all this activity to the west. Let's start with a little hint of the sunshine, though. Again, let's look at the setup here. So current radar, you can see areas like Prince George, you're seeing hints of pink. That is freezing rain. And then all this cloud cover, heavy snowfall moving in through the BC interior. Now, Alberta right now, you are seeing some snow activity east and north of Calgary. That is basically a preview of what's to come because your heaviest snow, you're mainly going to be impacted through the evening tonight and then into tomorrow. So the big story for BC today is going to be the snowfall before you clear out tomorrow. And you can see heavy amounts. So through those mountain passes, travel is going to be quite treacherous, 15 to 30 plus centimeters. And then as it moves through Alberta, west of Edmonton, that is the line that we are going to be seeing those heaviest snowfall amounts. Now, I talked about treacherous travel, and we do have some special weather statements in place. So along Highway 16 between Terrace and Smithers, you are looking at that freezing rain. That can be a disaster out in the drive because sometimes you can't see how icy it really is. And then if you're traveling along Highway 97, so north of Prince George, that's where we are looking at heavy snowfall amounts. The road's not the only danger, though. With all of this active weather, we're looking at an elevated avalanche risk. We have a fragile snowpack in some areas, like the northwest coast. Your risk has been bumped up to a high level of danger warning. So just be very cautious if you are participating in any of those recreational activities this New Year's Day. Now, through your evening and into the day tomorrow, that's where Alberta, you're going to be picking up most of your snowfall. Calgary, you can see you're really just dealing with less than 5 centimeters. It's Edmonton and west that we will be getting those heavier amounts. Then through the evening tomorrow, southern Saskatchewan gets into the snow, and then southern Manitoba. By the time it reaches you, you're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters, and you're mainly going to be impacted through the evening tomorrow. Yes, you're dealing with a wind chill across the prairies, that minus 25 that it's feeling like in Winnipeg. I hate to say it, but some of you are going to be seeing temperatures where your high is around minus 26 as we head into the weekend. Let's look at McKellar, Ontario, where along the 401 in eastern parts of the province, so through Kingston, Brockville, up through Cornwall, that's where we're seeing these heavy bands move off the lakes. And as a result, the 401 has been shut down on the eastbound side at Last Check between Wilton Road and Highway 15 due to multiple crashes and obviously extremely reduced visibility anywhere that you're traveling in that stretch. What happens with these lake effect snow squalls is a little simple shift in the wind can mean that one area getting hammered with snow and then another still enjoying pleasant conditions. So it can change very quickly. So do pay attention as we have snow squall warnings in place for parts of the shores of Georgian Bay as well eastern shores of Lake Superior. And that could mean some very heavy snowfall for eastern shores of Lake Superior, 20 plus centimeters. Then as we head into the weekend, we'll see that Alberta clipper merge with this Texas low. We'll talk more of what that will do coming up, as well as continued storm watch coverage. And that is why we're glad you're here. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking about the snow squall activity that we're seeing move through Ontario, making for dangerous travel conditions on the roads. But the big story we're watching for storm watch is all this active weather to the west. Let's start, though, in Calgary, Alberta, where, of course, story as we see the system set up. So we have this low moving through BC, transitioning into an Alberta clipper from there. So through the BC interior and north and central coast today, this is your messy day. Things will clear up for you tomorrow. But before then, all this white that you're seeing, that's 15 to 30 plus centimeters, as well areas like Prince George tapping into periods of freezing rain. For Alberta, it ramps up this evening, and it's west of Edmonton where we will see your heaviest accumulations as that snow continues through your day tomorrow. We also are looking at the danger of an elevated avalanche danger there. So you can see through the northwest coast, that's moved up to a high danger threat. So if you are planning on traveling through the backcountry, doing cross-country skiing, just be very cognizant of the conditions that are around you. So here are how things are going to play out as this system progresses. So as mentioned, your heavy day of snowfall starts this evening into tomorrow for Alberta. Southern Saskatchewan then gets the snow by the evening tomorrow. And you can see just west of Regina here, we have that little hint of white. So you could see that 15 to 30 centimeter mark. And then as it continues through the evening tomorrow in southern Manitoba, you're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters. That same system is going to be merging with a low over the Great Lakes. We'll talk about that in a moment, but let's look at your look ahead to the west. And the biggest story is going to be this high pressure moving back in place across Alberta through the prairies, and temperatures are going to be plummeting. We sting and at times a bit heavier. Today, a much different setup. We are seeing that lake effect snow machine really ramp up, and as a result through Kingston, we've had closures on the 401, Brockville, Cornwall, also seeing those dangerous travel conditions. And as you can see, we have snow squall warnings in place. Warnings, we know, mean imminent or occurring. So you need to have a heads up. Eastern shores of Georgian Bay through parts of the Nickel Belt, eastern shores of Superior as well, where we could be dealing with some very heavy snowfall. And it can change in an instant. It just takes a shift in the wind, and that could make treacherous conditions in one stretch of your drive, and then it can be fine the next. Now, overall, through Friday, you can see those darker blues along the shores of Huron and Georgian Bay. That's 10 to 20 centimeters of snow expected. And then that little hint of white there on the eastern shores of Superior, that could be 20 plus centimeters. So we are talking about quite a hefty amount. Now, you heard me say earlier that the system that we're talking about to the west will impact Ontario. So watch this. Here's the Alberta clipper. As we head in through Saturday, it's going to merge with this Texas low. And what is that going to create for Ontario? Well, things will start off with snow. We could see periods of freezing rain, then transitioning to rain. It will all be as temperatures fluctuate, and we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty of amounts as we get closer to that weekend forecast. But a big storm we're watching, because then it's going to push into Atlantic Canada, making Sunday the messy day for Atlantic Canada. So Saturday evening into your Sunday for Ontario is where we are looking at the heaviest things for you. And then as we make our way into your Sunday, that's the story for Atlantic Canada. So you can see the clipper system today. That's the big story we're watching. The squalls through Ontario. And then as we make our way through the weekend, that's when you see that stormy icon pop up, that low making its way then as we head into Sunday to Atlantic Canada, where same story there. We could be looking at periods of ice pellets, freezing rain, and that snowfall. And then the big story for the west is going to be those below seasonal temperatures as we head in through the rest of the week. Now, we have many stories to follow as you're seeing here, so keep it here for continuing storm watch coverage. Thanks for joining me on your New Year's Day. I'm Krissy Vann, and we have a lot of active weather and in some cases dangerous weather setting up across the country. We're going to talk about the snow squalls moving through Ontario, as I know that has caused havoc along one of the major thoroughfares, the 401. But the big thing we're watching for storm watch is all this active weather in the western portion of the country that will eventually impact right across to the east. But today, a different story for many. Today is the messy day for British Columbia, and you can see here all the cloud cover on that satellite, and then the radar picking up the snow just around Prince George, and the pink that you're seeing, that's periods of freezing rain. Now into Alberta, you are seeing a little bit of snow moving north and east of Calgary. That's basically an appetizer because there is much more on the way. We have an Alberta clipper that has developed. So along the BC interior through the mountain passes, travel will be dangerous because you're looking at 15 to 30 plus centimeters of snow, any area highlighted in white. And then west of Edmonton, that is where we are looking at the heaviest snowfall amounts for Alberta. Things are going to ramp up for you in Alberta this evening into your day tomorrow. Today is where BC is seeing the heaviest amounts, and as a result, travel will be impacted. I mean, along Highway 16, we are seeing that freezing rain, so a special weather statement has been issued. And then if you're traveling north of Prince George along Highway 97, heavy snowfall is going to impact you. Not the only danger, though, with the conditions that we've seen so far this winter. We have an elevated danger of avalanche in the northwest coastal regions of the province, and you can see as well some considerable risks as you're making your way through the Caribous, Columbia, and so on and so forth. So if you are a big fan of the recreational activities, heading through the mountains, cross-country skiing, just be very aware of the conditions, as we do have a fragile snowpack through many areas. Now, through Alberta, as mentioned, your heavy day of snow is going to be this evening into the day tomorrow. This Alberta clipper then progresses through southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. For you, that is going to be a story as we head into tomorrow evening. And you can see that the snowfall amounts kind of taper off as it makes its way eastward. So by the time it gets to Manitoba, you're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. What is to come after that? Unfortunately, the frigid conditions. We have Arctic high pressure moving in, and that's going to cause some dangerously cold weather, which of course will break it down for you as those temperatures arrive. Let's make our way, though, into North Bay. Extremely dangerous conditions is this band here. Snow squalls moving through Kingston, Brockville, heading in toward Cornwall, and you'll notice it's right along the 401. We have this tweet here to share with you as due to multiple collisions. Unfortunately, with these squalls, visibility can literally be reduced in an instant, and that's why you have to be very careful where we have these snow squall warnings in place along the eastern shores of Georgian Bay, the eastern shores of Lake Superior, in that warned area, which means heavy snowfall, and it can happen in a short period of time. Overall amounts in those darker blues, 10 to 20 centimeters, eastern shores of Superior, may get into that 20 plus centimeter mark. Now coming up, we'll look ahead for Ontario and Atlantic Canada and have more storm watch coverage. Quite an active way to start the new year. Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Krissy Vann. We're dealing with snow squalls moving through Ontario, making travel treacherous for many. Details on that coming up. But the big story that we're following for this storm watch is this system to the west that will actually be impacting the entire country. So details on that in a moment. But first, let's end the New Year's Eve, ending 2014 on a high note and then starting 2015 on a messy note if you're in BC. Throughout the interior, the north and central coast, we are looking at heavy snowfall, periods of freezing rain as well. You can see on the radar here, just around Prince George, those pinks popping up, that's freezing rain. And then the dark blue, the heavy snowfall. Freezing rain piled with heavy snowfall on top can make for extremely slick conditions on the road. So very messy. Through Alberta, we are seeing a little bit of snowfall here, both north and east of Calgary. That's not the big snowfall for you. That's going to ramp up this evening. So through the day today, BC, you're getting into your heaviest snowfall amounts. You can see through parts of the mountain passes, 15 to 30 plus centimeters. And then Alberta, things start to really escalate for you by this evening and in through the day tomorrow. So west of Edmonton is where we are looking at those heaviest bands at that 15 to 30 plus centimeter mark. I mentioned some tricky travels. Well, if you are making your way along Highway 16, Terrace up through Smithers, you'll be dealing with freezing rain, so be mindful of that. If you don't have to travel, perhaps best to not today. And north of Prince George, we're looking at those heavy snowfall conditions. So if you do have somewhere to go, tomorrow is going to be the better day as everything does clear up for you. Now, with all these messy conditions, and we've had fluctuating temperatures, we're looking at a fragile snowpack in many spots. And we do have an elevated danger threat in the northwest coastal parts of the province with a higher avalanche danger. So do be cautious if you have any activities planned. Now let's look at the breakdown of the snowfall as this Alberta clipper tracks its way into the prairies. So as mentioned, the heaviest snowfall falling for Alberta this evening in through the day tomorrow, that 15-30 centimeters for many. Calgary, you're looking at a general less than 5, but Edmonton, significantly more. The system by the evening tomorrow moves in through southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba. You can see by the time it gets to southern Manitoba, the system's kind of ramped down a little bit to that 5 to 10 centimeter mark. But this same Alberta clipper is going to be impacting Ontario as we head into the weekend. We'll talk about that more in a moment. I do want to mention we do have some pretty brisk wind chills through this afternoon in the prairies, but that's going to be nothing compared to the plummet in temperatures that you will be experiencing. Add to that 50-kilometer-per-hour wind gusts and blowing snow a major threat. Reduced visibility, a massive threat along the 401 through Kingston, Brockville, heading up into Cornwall. That's where we are seeing this heavy band move through. The 401 eastbound has actually been shut down between Wilton Road and Highway 15, and that's due to multiple collisions that have occurred there. But as mentioned, with the wind as well, the blowing snow is going to be a big concern. Now, you're probably thinking, well, when is this system going to end? Unfortunately, this lake effect setup continuing through the day today, so these snow squalls quite possible. We have a pretty large warning area extending through the shores of Georgian Bay up into the Nickel Belt, and then the eastern shores of Lake Superior. So snow squall warnings mean imminent or occurring, and then we have snow squall watches as well a little further south. So that means the ingredients are there for those squalls to set up and impact your day. Looking through Friday as for amounts, well, the darker blues, that's 10 to 20 centimeters, and you see those pop-ups of white on the map just around Lake Huron, Georgian Bay, and then those eastern shores of Superior. That could be 20 plus centimeters, so highly impactful snowfall amounts. It's not over as we head into the weekend. That Alberta clipper merges with the Texas low over Ontario. Will bring periods of snow, rain, and freezing rain. More storm watch details coming up. Very active conditions popping up across the country. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Krissy Vann. Later on in the show, we will be joined by Chris May as we have a lot of weather to start off the new year with. Let's look at the radar here. Through the BC interior, the north and central coast, we are looking at an active day with heavy snowfall, periods of freezing rain for some areas. You can see the pinks here picking up in your radar through Prince George. That is freezing rain, and then the blues, that heavy snow, which is going to make for some treacherous travel. Through Alberta right now, we are seeing north and east of Calgary those active conditions. Let's look within those mountain passes. It is going to be treacherous. We do have multiple snowfall warnings. We have winter storm warnings in the pink, freezing rain warnings as well. Look at Prince George. I mean, you're actually getting both the snow and the freezing rain, and some of the snowfall amounts are going to be significant. You can see through the BC interior, 15 to 30 plus centimeters. All of this really coming through the day today, and then by the evening, things are going to ramp up for Alberta. West of Edmonton is where we're going to see those heavy 15 to 30 plus centimeter amounts. So that's this evening into your day tomorrow. Now let's look at your highway conditions, and along Highway 16. So we are seeing that freezing rain between Terrace and Smithers, and the north of Prince George along Highway 97. That's when we are looking at the heavy snowfall. And that's exactly why I warned you through those mountain passes. It could be quite tricky. Perhaps though you're the type that likes to get out in the backcountry, I do want to mention that we do have an elevated avalanche danger. A particular area of concern would be in the northwest coastal portions of the province. A higher risk there. We have a fragile snowpack, and then all of this precipitation falling is not going to help that. Let's look ahead though as to what this system will do. So moving in heavy through the evening, in through the overnight and the day tomorrow through Alberta, Calgary, you're looking at less than 5 centimeters. Edmonton, some higher amounts. It moves in by the evening in southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba. And by the time it gets to southern Manitoba, you're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters. Squall activity, and in addition to that, blowing snow, a major concern as we have gusts getting up to 50 kilometers per hour. This is the squall in question. So lake effect snow, this band impacting Kingston, Brockville, heading up into Cornwall. And as you'll notice, that's right along one of the most major thoroughfares, the 401. As a result, the 401 between Wilton Road and Highway 15 has been shut down on the eastbound side, and that is due to multiple collisions. We have this lake effect set up here. Snow squall warnings in place for the eastern shores of Georgian Bay through parts of the Nickel Belt, eastern shores of Superior as well. And those are warnings which we know means occurring or imminent. We join Chris May now, where, of course, we are seeing these conditions. What's happening in social media? And you have the things we need to know. Thanks for joining us on this active start to the new year. I'm Krissy Vann, and we have some big stories to talk about across the country. In Ontario, we are dealing with some heavy snow squall bands through the Great Lakes, so we will have details on some impactful things that it's doing to travel. And then in western parts of the country, we have a system that's actually going to impact you from BC all the way into Atlantic Canada. Let's start things off, though. It may not be ideal for jogging conditions through the west as we start off things this year. You can see here on the radar this heavy cloud cover, the BC interior, the north and central coast dealing with some periods of heavy snowfall as well as freezing rain. All those pinks that we're picking up on the radar here around Prince George, that's freezing rain. And combine that with the heavy snowfall, it's quite dangerous. We are seeing snow in Alberta right now, both east and north of Calgary. That's basically the appetizer of what is to come. So you can see we have a plethora of snowfall warnings, winter storm warnings. Those are the ones in this pinky shade here. And basically a winter storm warning means that you'll get a variety of different types of winter-like precipitation. And then we do have the snowfall warnings as well. So the heavy snowfall amounts through the BC interior could mean 15 to 30 plus centimeters. That's going to be your story for today. By this evening, the system makes its way through Alberta, west of Edmonton, all said and done, looking at 15 to 30 plus centimeters. And that's really going to be most impactful through the evening hours, overnight, and into your day tomorrow. Talking about impacts on travel, well, if you're along Highway 16 in BC, terrace through to Smithers, freezing rain a concern. As a result, special weather statements have been issued. And then north on 97, so north of Prince George, Highway 97, heavy snowfall could be quite a danger on the roads. Let's look at the avalanche risk, where we do have an elevated danger, particularly in the northwest coast. So if you do have any outdoor activities planned, do bear that in mind. The system, this Alberta Clipper, continues to push through. So through the day tomorrow in Alberta, by the evening, southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba will be impacted. And this same system is going to have an impact on Ontario and right through to Atlantic Canada. Let's look ahead, though, for the west first, where the Arctic high pressure returns and temperatures will be plummeting in the prairies as we head into the weekend. This is a look at the current radar. So we've had these lake effect snow squalls ramping up Kingston through Brockville, heading up into Cornwall. That's where we're seeing this heavy band, and unfortunately right along the 401. As a result, we have had highway closures on the eastbound side, Wilton Road through Highway 15 due to multiple collisions. We have snow squall warnings in place, eastern shores of Georgian Bay through the Nickel Belt, eastern shores of Superior. Warnings mean imminent or occurring. And by Friday, the darker blue areas, so Prairies Sound picking up about 10 to 20 centimeters of snow. And then eastern shores of Lake Superior, you could tap into that 20 plus centimeter range. Now, we are looking at some snow squall watches and warnings as well as you make your way toward the Gaspé Peninsula. And then I do want to mention that we are looking through Friday, some snow moving into Atlantic Canada as well, mainly sea effect and a couple systems moving through, but heaviest bands in the sea effect area in western Newfoundland, 10 to 15 centimeters, as well along the channels of the Bay of Fundy. You could be looking at higher amounts. And then heading into the weekend, a messy system on the way as this Texas low merges with an Alberta Clipper. More details on that coming up with your Storm Watch coverage. What an active way to start the new year. Thanks for joining me. I'm Krissy Vann, and we're looking at lake effect snow squalls set up through Ontario, and it has made for dangerous travel conditions. We'll dive into that, but the big storm watch story is this system to the west that actually will be impacting things from BC right through to Atlantic Canada. Let's kick off, though, our New Year's Day. Weather cooperated so that the fireworks and the show could go on because we do have a very active day. So through the BC interior, the north and central coast, we are looking at heavy snowfall in BC as well as some periods of freezing rain. On the radar right now, you can see around Prince George, those pockets of pink, that's the freezing rain, which we know causes havoc on the roads. And then in Alberta right now, north and east of Calgary, we are looking at a band of snowfall moving through. That's just a preview, though, of what's to come. We'll talk about that in a second, but you can see through BC, we have a swath of snowfall warnings in blue, winter storm warnings in this salmon color, if you will. And then we have through Prince George, freezing rain warnings as well as winter storm warnings. You're going to be dealing with a big mix of wintry precipitation, some freezing rain as well, as mentioned, could make things really dangerous for you out on the roads. As for how much snow you'll see in the BC interior, well, by Friday night, 15 to 30 plus centimeters of snow. By the evening tonight through the day tomorrow, that's where things ramp up for you in Alberta, and it's west of Edmonton where we are looking at the heaviest bands with this Alberta clipper. Do you want to mention, I've been talking about tricky travel. Well, on Highway 16 through BC, so Terrace over to Smithers, freezing rain the concern, and then if you're traveling along Highway 97, so north of Prince George, that's where the heavy snowfall could cause a dangerous situation in those mountain passes. Speaking of the mountains, we are looking at an elevated danger of avalanches, particularly in the northwest coast, so do be cautious if you do have any activities planned. Now let's break down the snowfall as this Alberta clipper progresses. As mentioned, the heaviest for Alberta this evening in through the day tomorrow. By the evening tomorrow, southern Saskatchewan and southern Manitoba, that's when you get the snow. By the time it reaches you in Manitoba, you're looking at 5 to 10 centimeters. So it calms down a bit, but that same system is going to impact Ontario and Atlantic Canada. We'll look at that in a moment. But first, looking ahead for the west, Arctic high pressure settles in and temperatures will be plummeting. Now let's head to Charlottetown. Of course, you can upload your viewer videos at theweathernetwork.com. And I imagine we're going to get quite a bit from eastern Ontario because we have this heavy snow squall band. Kingston, Brockville, up through Cornwall, right along the 401 is where we are seeing this lake effect snowfall, greatly reduced visibility. Added to that, winds gusting at around 50 kilometers per hour, and it's just been a mess. On the 401, it has been shut down eastbound between Wilton Road and Highway 15 due to multiple crashes. And you can see we have snow squall warnings pretty widespread along the eastern shores of Georgian Bay, eastern shores of Superior as well. And a warning means imminent or occurring. So the thing with lake effect is a shift in wind direction can greatly change what you're dealing with. So 10 kilometers away, you may see that heavy snowfall and then all clear where you are. Overall snowfall amounts expected through Parry Sound, about 10 to 20 centimeters. And then those eastern shores of Superior, that little touch of white there, that's 20 plus centimeters. So quite impactful. And then we also have snowfall warnings for snow squall warnings, not snowfall warnings, for parts of Quebec. So in the Sept-Îles region and Port Cartier, you could be dealing with those really reduced visibility situations. Looking at Atlantic Canada, we have sea effect snow in western Newfoundland. That's why you're looking at that 10 to 15 centimeters, the heaviest amounts, and then a couple systems just generating a less than 5 for parts of Nova Scotia. Coming up for the weekend, though, the Alberta clipper merges with this Texas low over Ontario, bringing periods of rain, freezing rain, and snow. We'll have more details with Storm Watch coverage. A very active start to the new year. Thank you for joining me. I'm Krissy Vann, and coming up, we'll be joined by Chris May, who will be sharing what we're dealing with in social media, what you're dealing with on the roads in Ontario after some heavy snow squall bands have set up with lake effect. And then, of course, we're in storm watch for this big system to the west. Let's kick things off, though, in Canmore, Alberta. We're bundled up. Today, though, well, you're going to need bundled up. You're going to need the snowshoes, too. If you're traveling through the BC interior, north and central coast, we are dealing with heavy snowfall. You can see here on the radar picking up the pinks around Prince George. That is freezing rain. Pair that with heavy snowfall amounts, a disaster if you are planning to travel. In Alberta right now, just east and north of Calgary, we are seeing some snow set up. That is not the big system that will be impacting you this evening into tomorrow. Let's look though at the BC interior, and you can see a swath of warnings here. We have winter storm warnings. That's in your salmon color, which means a variety of winter-like precipitation, ice pellets, freezing rain, snow at times, blowing snow possible. Through Prince George, that's where we could be looking at that freezing rain, and in the interior, snowfall warnings for this. Yes, we are looking at a setup of 15 to 30 plus centimeters through the day today. That system moves in through Alberta this evening, in through the day tomorrow, and west of Edmonton. That is where you are going to see your highest snowfall amounts. Travel quite tricky along Highway 16 between Terrace and Smithers with the freezing rain, and along Highway 97 north of Prince George. That is where the heavy snowfall will impact things through those mountain passes. In addition to that, we are looking at an elevated avalanche danger, particularly in the northwest coastal parts of the province. So just be very careful if you do have any backcountry activities planned by Friday. So let's watch this Alberta clipper go. So through Edmonton, you are going to be looking at some heavier amounts versus Calgary. That's less than 5. Your heaviest times of precipitation this evening in through your Friday. Then southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba, you're going to see that precipitation by the evening tomorrow. By the time it reaches Manitoba, it's generally going to be 5 to 10 centimeters. So it starts to ramp down a little bit, but that same system is going to be impacting things through Ontario and Atlantic Canada as we head through this weekend. Now, we do have high pressure moving in behind the system, and that is going to make temperatures just plummet. Now, right now is this setup here with lake effect snow moving along the 401 in eastern parts of Ontario, Kingston, Brockville, Cornwall, all heavily impacted. I know we have road closures in place. What are you seeing in social media there, Chris? We're starting the new year with active weather across the country. Thanks for joining me. I'm Krissy Vann. Coming up, we'll be joined with Chris May, who has some incredible things that he has been spotting on social media, mainly due to snow squalls impacting portions of Ontario. We'll dive into that coming up. But we are in storm watch for this system to the west. Let's head to Calgary right now. They're always good to get that head start to the New Year's resolutions, right? Today, though, may be that day, New Year's Day, where you sit back and relax if you're in the BC interior, north and central coast, because we are getting heavy snowfall, periods of freezing rain. On the radar here, the pinks that you can see picking up around Prince George, that is in fact the freezing rain. In Alberta, we are seeing snow east and north of Calgary, but that's just the appetizer. The big system moving in for Alberta this evening and then through the day tomorrow. Focus to the BC interior, and you can see we have a wide swath of snowfall warnings, winter storm warnings, and freezing rain warnings. Freezing rain concern particularly through the Prince George area. So do be very careful if you are traveling. As well, we do have that heavy snowfall through the interior, 15 to 30 plus centimeters through the day today. And then it moves into Alberta this evening. West of Edmonton, you're looking at 30 plus centimeters by Friday night. So that is a significant amount. Travel impacted along Highway 16, Terrace through Smithers, freezing rain, the concern there. And then on Highway 97 north of Prince George, that heavy snowfall is going to be cause for concern. Another concern, if you are participating in the recreational activities in the great outdoors, just be aware we have an elevated danger of avalanche. So particularly in the northwest coastal part of the province. So just be really cognizant of the conditions. By Friday night, well, we're going to watch this Alberta clipper progress through the prairies, actually eventually merging with another system to impact things in Ontario and Atlantic Canada by the weekend. But through Alberta, your heaviest amounts falling this evening into tomorrow. By tomorrow evening, southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba get the snow, 5 to 10 centimeters for southern Manitoba. So you can see things do improve. Looking at a quick peek ahead for you, high pressure moves in, and that is going to be plummeting your temperatures. It'll be a great time if you're doing those outdoor activities, but it can be disastrous on the roads, and that's what we've been seeing setting up along the 401 through Kingston, Brockville, Cornwall. We've had this lingering squall. Chris, what are you seeing out there on social media? I know we've had highway closures and just a really big mess overall.
Yeah, there's an area